1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's go! One, two, three, four, five, let's go! Beaming to you from the Plastic Microphone Studios, deep in the heart of Cajun country, this is Fave 5 from Fans. I'm your host, Jamie Ray, and I'd like to thank you for joining us. We have got a show today for all of you out there in the podcast universe that I deduce you will enjoy. Today, I've invited Kathy Bright of the LBC Irregulars, a Sherlock Holmes podcast from the Longbox Crusade Network. You know, those guys with, what's that guy's name, and that other guy and his brother. And anyway, they're fun. To discuss our 5 favorite Sherlock Holmes portrayals. Now, Sherlock Holmes portrayals, what are you talking about? Well, we're going to get into that in a little bit with our guest. Kathy Bright, known as the MVP in some circles, is a California-born but Alabama-raised gal. She's an Auburn grad who loves sports, movies, TVs, musics, Funko Pops, and all things pop cultures, especially if it's from the 80s. And let me tell you, this girl knows her stuff. She does her own podcast about Sherlock, so I expect to be taken to task today. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Well, hello, Jamie. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talk about some Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, we are. And we're going to talk about any and all kinds. But before we do that, tell me about your podcast and what you do.
The show that I co-host with Mr. Jared Albrick. I always say he's the Sherlock Holmes to my Irene Adler. We talk about the 1984 to 1994 Granada series with actor Jeremy Brett as Sherlock Holmes. And we just take each episode. We do usually 2 episodes per episode of the podcast and just discuss our likes and dislikes of the episode.
Awesome. And how many episodes are there of that show? Round number.
I believe it's in the 40s, the 40 range. I believe 49, 50 episodes, something like that.
Okay. So what are you going to do once you finish that?
I will probably move on to a different series, either the BBC Sherlock, or I mean, our options are kind of all over the place. We could do Sherlock from the BBC. We could do Elementary, which was, I believe, a CBS show.
I think you're right.
We could do movies. Wherever the world is our oyster. Exactly.
Okay. So I have listened to one of those episodes, even though it has Jared in it. I was waiting for that. So you have been brought into the group because of this one, but you also have been on some of their other shows as well, right?
Correct. Yes. I first got started in the podcasting with their show called Action Film Face Off, which is one of my favorites. They take 2 random years, pick an action movie from that year, and rate them in 5 different categories. And I was brought on as a guest sniper, which the sniper has 5 points to give to whichever movie we deem worthy in that particular category. And it usually can sway the winner one way or the other. So it's a great show. It's a lot of fun.
Using your sniper wiles.
That's right.
All right. Oh, cool. So we can hear you on all the platforms. It comes out underneath the Longbox Crusade umbrella.
Correct. Longbox Crusade, and then it actually has its own Twitter feed called Action Film Face Off as well.
Okay, cool. Well, and so speaking of, we can find you and your podcast on Twitter. Where else?
I am on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I'm on everything under AU Kathy 2418. The LBC Irregulars show, it can be found on YouTube under the Longbox Crusade banner. Cool.
And if somebody wants to talk Auburn football with you, you don't want to do that, right?
Oh, absolutely, every day, all day. I've got a big group of people that on Twitter that we're all the Auburnites that we discuss the Auburn footballs on the weekends.
And do you all get together and form one big super Auburn robot?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I figured.
We should. Yeah. I'm glad we didn't do this podcast next week, because next week is the big rivalry in the Bayou with the LSU Tigers. With
Roll
my Auburn
Tide.
Tigers. Oh, hell no.
Did you listen to my sports episode? I have no idea what you're talking about, woman.
No, I don't guess I did.
What is Auburn's slogan?
We are the Auburn Tigers, but our battle cry is War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Yes. So it apparently was started from what I understand, there was a veteran that came back from the war with an injured bird that he rehabbed back to health. Something with him and a bird, and it was during a football game. It flew around at the football game. Auburn ended up winning. They called it, because it had been in the War Eagle. So from my understanding, that's where it came from.
Okay. So somebody really should have changed the mascot then to like an eagle, a tiger with eagle wings.
Yeah, but then we would have to give up Albie, and Albie is one of the best. He's Albie the Tiger. He's one of the best mascots in the business.
So
he is a 10-time national champion, I believe.
Would you put him in a cage match with Mike the Tiger?
Absolutely. Oh, wait. Mike the Tiger's the real tiger, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, you said yes. Absolutely. So let's make that happen.
Albie would win in the cute off, I promise.
Yeah. And he'd be cute in about 4 or 5 different places. There's actually a place on I-10 going into Baton Rouge before you get to Baton Rouge. It's like a gas station on the side, and they have or I don't know, they might not have it anymore because of PETA and stuff, but they had a big lion in there, and it was like a retired Mike the Tiger, if I'm not mistaken. So
oh wow, like, when I was a student at Auburn, we actually had an area on campus called the Eagle's Nest, and before they had the Raptor Center, which they have now, to rehabilitate injured animals.
Rehabilitate?
Yeah. Rehabilitate injured raptors. But the Eagle's Nest was on campus, and there was an eagle that was in this giant, like it was a cage, but it was like a soft, like netted cage where the eagle would fly around, and you could go and sit next to it and have a picnic lunch in between classes. It was pretty awesome. I hate that they don't have that on campus anymore.
Yeah, that's cool. Wow. So sorry. The Raptor's Nest. So I do know that I used my Google powers of intuition there, that song was written, like you said, 1942. So there you go. War Eagles.
That's nice.
Anyway, all right. Well, let's talk a little bit about where this idea came from, because I did not have Sherlock Holmes on my list, but I think you tweeted to me about something, and then I was like, oh, hell yeah, Sherlock Holmes.
Well, I think we actually talked about it in Charlotte. I think you mentioned it when we were at Heroes Con. Because we were up there, and I don't know if maybe Jared had been talking about, the podcast.
Jared's always talking.
He is. That's probably why we get along. But yeah,
You're
I
right.
think you mentioned it at Heroes Con, and you're like, I need to get you on the show. And then we kind of threw around some ideas of what, and it's like, well, I do podcast about Sherlock, so let's do Sherlock.
Start with Sherlock, and then we'll do Jason Momoa and Bill Paxton and
Tom Cruise. I think was
Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise. Yeah. Yeah, Kathy made a list for me.
Are you sensing a theme?
Well, I would say tall dudes, but you said Tom Cruise, so sorry.
He may be crazy, but he makes some incredible movies, and
yes,
I'm only 5'2", so his height's perfectly fine for me.
I saw him in some movie the other day. God, I forget who it was, but I know that actress is like 5'11", and they're standing there. And he's like looking down into her eyes, and I'm like, oh hell no!
It's probably his ex-wife. Isn't Nicole Kidman like really tall?
She is, but I don't think it was her. I think it was. Was it the one where Oblivion? It was Oblivion. The lady in that movie is like an actress, like a model or something. So,
I can't remember who the girl is.
I always want to say Thandi, but it's not her.
Oh, I did not like that movie on first watch, but when I've rewatched it in the past 5 or 6 years, I actually enjoyed it much more than I did the first time.
I would probably be in the same boat, except I never watched it more than once. I just recently did recorded an episode about alien invasions of Earth, and it came up on Nelson on my other friends. We came up in that discussion, and he's convinced me to actually rewatch it again. So I don't know. We'll see how this goes. This will be coming out. Yeah, this will be coming out. I think around Thanksgiving. So by then I'll be through my 31 unwatched horror movies in October, and I'll have time to watch something else. So
you'll be on to movies with turkeys as the main characters.
You make a funny mark, but there are a lot of movies that have turkeys, including an Eli Roth horror movie that may or may not have come out yet, based on a silly trailer he did for the Planet Horror films with him and Rodriguez. So anyway, we should see. It should be fun. But yeah, cool. I'm thankful for all the movies out there. See what I did there? Thankful. And anyway, all right. Well, we have fiddle farted as much as I think the 16, 17 people who are listening to us tonight will deal with. So I think we should probably go ahead and crack open our big magnifying glasses and let us reveal how many 16 honorable mentions?
Absolutely, yes.
16 honorable mentions. All right. Well, I'm going to snooze, and you just let me know when you're finished with that list.
Well, like I said, I do have a few honorable mentions, but I felt like they each needed to be mentioned because they kind of play. I mean, there's a different reason for each one, but I will keep it short and simple. And do you want me to list all of them right now?
Yes, you just go and listen. Seriously, you take as much time with.
I'll snap my fingers to it. All right. Well, the first one I wanted to mention was the originator of Sherlock Holmes. We can't talk about Sherlock Holmes without talking about William Gillette. He was the stage actor that played Sherlock over 1,300 times on stage. I actually, in my research for this podcast, because even though I podcast about Sherlock, I'm just now reading the stories of Sherlock Holmes for the first time because of the podcast I do.
Okay.
And so I'm diving in deep, and I wanted to watch some portrayals that I had never seen before. I even watched a couple of silent films, which William Gillette was the first one to portray Sherlock Holmes on a film, in a silent film. And it was, silent films are an acquired taste, but I really enjoyed it. I can see why he was that day's Sherlock Holmes.
Okay.
I watched a movie recently that I had never even heard of. What was the name? Oh, Without a Clue, with Michael Caine and Ben Kingsley.
Right.
And I wanted to note it was a comedy which, is a little bit different for the Sherlock Holmes world. But I really enjoyed the comic performance of Michael Caine in this. There's a little bit of a twist where it's an old movie. So spoiler warning, it's a 40-year-old movie. You should have seen it by now. Where Watson is truly the detective, and he has hired Michael Caine's Sherlock Holmes to portray an actor to portray Sherlock Holmes, the face of Sherlock Holmes. And he's completely clueless in this whole movie. Ben Kingsley Watson is the one that really does all the work.
Yeah.
I recently just also watched Ian McKellen's film, which I think is the most current film right now out about Sherlock Holmes. And it's an elderly, dementia-ridden Sherlock Holmes.
Okay.
And it was played by Ian McKellen, who I just think did a fantastic job. That's such a difficult subject to approach, the genius mind of Sherlock Holmes being lost to such a horrific disease of dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he did an incredible job taking Sherlock to a whole new age and level that we're not used to seeing.
Right.
And my last two, these will be quick. We have to give props to Robert Downey Jr. I mean, he's the one that brought Sherlock Holmes, I think, to a whole new fan base.
Yes.
Without those movies, there would be, millions of people who have never heard of Sherlock Holmes.
True.
And in my notes, in my rules of the show, you mentioned that we could also mention if it was to our disliking that we had to mention as well.
So bad that it has to be mentioned.
Yes. And I don't want to say it's bad because I really do like this actor. Just maybe not in this role.
I think I know where you're going.
I adore Will Ferrell, but Will Ferrell as Sherlock Holmes just did not work for me at all. I love those two together.
Mm-hmm,
Him and what's his name? It's not William H. Macy.
What was the movie called? Holmes and Watson?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember the first time I watched it, I absolutely hated it. I'm like, this is awful.
John C. Reilly.
Yes, that's it. I did rewatch, and like that was when it first probably came out on Netflix or whatever, because I used to get the DVDs from Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
But then I rewatched it recently and I did laugh, but probably because I know more of the Sherlock Holmes world now. So there were things that were said and done that I found amusing, but yeah, it's bad. So bad.
I've never watched it. I am very familiar with it too, and I know that the director is the same director who did Idiocracy, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. But I just couldn't do it. I could not do it, because there are some times where you could see like an SNL skit. If that had been an SNL skit, it probably would have been perfect, 7 minutes long or whatnot.
Right.
But
yeah.
I couldn't imagine giving an hour and a half of my life.
Yeah. And I think the reason I was able to get through it, because like I said, I do love those two actors together. I mean, Step Brothers, Talladega Nights is one of my favorite.
You're the cougar of the car.
I'm on fire.
Yeah, but just to see him in those roles, I'm with you. I again, we don't bash stuff, but we could definitely, for the love and respect of our 17 listeners, to say maybe take a nap instead of watching that movie.
Right. And like I said, there were some funny parts, but it was just not, it wasn't it.
I got you. All right. Well, that's a good list. I went through that pretty quick, actually. I'm pretty impressed. I only have 3 honorable mentions. And the first one came to me today because I totally forgotten about this. But do you remember back in the mid 90s, I think, or maybe late 90s, it was a cartoon called Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd Century. Have you ever seen this?
I saw it in the list of all the Sherlock Holmes movies, but I have not seen it. No.
All right. Well, I remember watching a couple of episodes of it. I think it would come on, I don't know, maybe Fox. I don't know, it would come on. But basically, you find out that Sherlock didn't die, but that he had been buried in a glass-walled type. How did I say? Anyway, long story short, they found his body. They put it in a coffin. Someone comes along because a clone of Moriarty in 2103 is running around rampant in New London. And the Beth Lestrade, who was a descendant of the original Lestrade, clones Holmes. And they get together. And so they go, and basically each episode is like a rewrite of the old one.
Mm-hmm.
And then they turn around and space it up like they do. So it was, of the couple that I saw, it was kind of interesting. Watson is a robot.
Oh, interesting. It sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it was neat. So I'm not sure where you could get it. It was it was on Fox Kids. That's where it was. It was on Fox Kids. So anyway, so that's one. Another honorable mention is going to be The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes. It came out in 1970. And the reason that this is on the list is just because sometimes it's kind of wacko. But basically, Robert Stevens plays a bored Sherlock Holmes who meets Madame Petrova, a famed ballerina, y'all.
Well, I think ballerino is correct for a male dancer.
Oh,
so.
Well, I'm not sure about that. You can get into that back in the 70s. But she wants to have a child with him. So the child have her body in his mind. And he manages to get away from it. And they head to Loch Ness. And in it, we meet up with Sherlock's brother, Mycroft, played by Christopher Lee. So it just specifically just for Christopher Lee in there. That was a fun one.
And he played Watson in that, you said?
No, in this one, he plays Mycroft.
Oh, okay.
So he's in the second part of the movie.
Okay.
So another honorable mention is one that you've already just mentioned, Mr. Holmes, 2015. Oh, by the way, you can watch The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes on Amazon Prime, and you can watch Mr. Holmes from 2015. I watched it on Vudu because I ended up, strangest thing, I found the Blu-ray at a Dollar Tree, and it had a digital version. So I think it's like $15, but a lot of this stuff, if you're lucky, you can find it on YouTube and watch it. But
that's what the silent movies I watched on YouTube, and anyway.
Yeah, and Laura Linney plays his housekeeper in this one.
Oh, I like that.
Yes, and I thought she did an amazing job. I actually just finished watching that today at lunch because I remembered seeing it, but I'd never really sat down and watched it. And in it, like you said, an older Holmes, everyone is gone. Mycroft is dead. Watson's dead. Miss Hudson's gone. And he is trying to remember a case, but because of his unreliable memory, he can't put all the stuff together. And with the help of this young boy, Roger, whose father had passed away in the war, helps him to kind of like revitalize his memory and is able to write out the true nonfiction version of the case. And I thought it was very touching.
Mm-hmm.
And I did, like you said, I thought McKellen put in an amazing performance. Especially, do you remember the scene where he's trying to think of one case and he says the wrong case and the young boy corrects him and it just like resets him. He's just like sitting there staring. I don't know. I thought that was a really, really great scene.
Oh yeah. I think he did a great job.
Yeah. So those are mine.
But he is Gandalf. So
he is. I mean, he's also Magneto. So, I mean, what more could you ask for? So anyway, okay. Those are our favorites. I say that we move on to your number 5 favorite Sherlock Holmes portrayal / performance / appearance. It's a lot of slashes.
Okay, let me give you a little facts about number 5 and see if you can figure out who it is.
Clues to figure out the mystery.
This was saying that he's British is not really a clue because, they all are. But he was an intelligence officer in the British Army, including being the Army's fencing champion. He got his notoriety from playing villains when he first started his acting jobs. He has 3 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Holy crap. 1
for TV, 1 for movies, and 1 for radio.
Oh, okay. Well, can I guess now?
One more. This one will give it away. He was the actor in 14 Sherlock Holmes films.
Yeah.
And would you care to guess now?
I'm not even going to guess. I am just going to tell you the answer. And of course, the answer is Tom Cruise.
Absolutely, Tom Cruise.
Look at me. No, girl, that's Nigel Bruce.
Well, that's Watson, yes.
Oh, not Watson. Basil in Time.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Basil or Basil, but yes,
Basil Rathbone.
Basil Rathbone is my first Sherlock Holmes, so I have to give him credit for that. I would not know who Sherlock Holmes was if it was not for Mr. Basil Rathbone.
Yes, he's a good one. So, because he has 14 different movie, can you put it down to a particular movie?
Well, I didn't get a chance to watch. I've really
just off the top of the head, just go whatever jumps out at you.
It has to be Hounds of the Baskervilles, just because that's the first one. But oddly enough, I have watched several versions of Hounds of the Baskervilles recently.
Mm-hmm. And there are a few.
And there is not a lot of Sherlock Holmes in that story.
Nope, there's not.
He's gone like 3/4 of the movie, but he's the one I remember. He was my first, so he has to be included in 5 of my favorites.
That's okay. Well, I'm totally good with that. He is both of them. I mean, because you almost can't split Holmes without Watson in these roles, because they together, and they did the radio show for years.
Exactly.
So I'm with you, and I'll say it right now. When I think of Holmes, it's going to be him. Mm-hmm. So good choice. Good choice.
I think when you mention them, it's hard to separate Watson and Sherlock. I think several of my higher choices on my list could possibly be from the portrayal of Watson, because the Watsons are so strong in those portrayals. I think that helps move them up into the favorite category.
Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why my honorable mention, Mr. Holmes, wasn't higher, because you don't really have a Watson in it.
Yeah.
There are little bits in flashbacks, but it's not anything. So it's hard to just, he's always had that foil. As I said when I was on their show, Watson is famous for saying, Watson, Holmes. So you know what I'm saying. You're right there.
Yeah, he keeps him grounded.
Mm-hmm. That's basically what I said. All right. Well, then let me parry this one with my number 5. It's fencing,
Yes, I liked it.
So my number 5 is based off of the book Jack the Ripper, The Final Solution by Stephen Knight. Anything? Okay. This came out in 1979. And it was very unpopular with a lot of the British royals at the time. Probably still.
I have an idea, but I'm not certain.
Do you want to say it, or you want me to just go?
No, just go.
Murder by Decree, 1979, with Christopher Plummer as Sherlock Holmes.
I was thinking Roger Moore.
There is somebody, I can't remember which one of these movies, but in one of these movies, I think it's Moriarty is played by Scaramanga from
really?
Roger. Yeah. And of course, it's got Christopher Lee in it.
Yeah.
But this one has James Mason as his Dr. Watson. And they're trying to figure out, they rope in Holmes to try the 5 murders of Jack the Ripper. And if you're not, you may want to search it out because it's really interesting in that in the book, it's deduced that it's one of the royal family who was actually doing the murders.
Ooh, interesting. No wonder they didn't enjoy it.
Exactly. And it's a cover up because of a secret marriage from a duke to a working class girl. And so it's really interesting. Donald Sutherland plays a role in it as a psychic. And of course, Donald Sutherland's, really great and everything. But you can watch it on Crackle. And that's Murder by Decree, 1979.
It's definitely on my list. Like I said, I created a list when we were talking about doing this of all the different films and TV shows. And I'm like diving in deep. But that's one I didn't get to. Yeah,
that's a good one. I would tell you to go out and watch it.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, let us jump back to your number 4.
All right. This one doesn't have as many trivia nuggets, tidbits as the rest of my list. He, along with Basil Rathbone, participated. Oh, I don't think I mentioned that with him. Both of these actors were a part of the Robin Hood world as well. This particular actor was involved in the TV show Robin Hood. He's British. He has a famous father whose name is Leslie, not giving away the last name just yet, who was an actor in a movie that we've at least all heard of called Gone with the Wind. And this particular actor, he left acting to run an art gallery because he was not known for, he didn't really have a big footprint in Hollywood, but I particularly like his portrayal, and I'll explain why once I tell you who it is. And that is, do you have a guess?
I do not have a guess. You said Leslie, and all I can think of is Leslie Nielsen. Robin Hood. What?
I was going to say Leslie Nielsen would have probably been.
It would have been like along with his hot shots and Police Story. That would be good.
What's the vampire one?
Dead and Loving It.
Yes, that's it.
Yes. Okay, so if I had to guess, the only other person I could think of is Errol Flynn, but I don't know that he was ever.
Basil Rathbone was in Errol Flynn's Robin Hood, by the way. I forgot to mention that.
That's it. I thought so. So who is it, girl?
His name is Ronald Howard, and he is the it's the 1954 Sherlock TV series.
Oh,
that's why it was hard for me to do individual stories because a lot of mine are not films, But yeah, Ronald Howard, not Ron Howard, but not Opie Taylor.
Son of Leslie Howard.
Correct. Who I think played Ashley, I believe was his character's name in Gone with the Wind. Oh
yeah, he was the other one out for
Miss Scarlett's attention.
Scarlett. I don't give a damn.
Yes, but I really like his portrayal because he's very down to earth. He's charming. He's friendly. He's not rude. A lot of portrayals of Holmes is his very rudeness to everyone else. He doesn't have that. He's just very smart, but he's still very friendly and very kind and not off-putting. And he's charming. And I think that's why I really enjoy his portrayal of Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, well, I'll have to go try to find one of those and watch it because I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh, yeah, it's good. I think you can find them on YouTube. That's actually the Longbox guys on their Saturday matinee theater.
Yeah.
They have done some, they have reviewed some episodes of that original 1954 Sherlock series.
Then I shall search out and find.
I think you'll enjoy it. I found a couple of apps on Roku that have like Sherlock Holmes channels.
Oh, those are great.
And one channel in particular, it just has all, I think there were 39 episodes of that, and they have all 39 episodes. Maybe it's not that many. That sounds like a lot, but they're only 30 minutes. So it's not a big time commitment. You can get through them pretty quick. And I think it's a good watch. I think you'll enjoy it.
I will. I'll have to do that. And I will do that after I tell you what my number 4 is.
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm going to give you a hint and see if you can figure it out. It is a movie.
Okay.
And it is based off of a novel written by the director of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, who is also a director in his own right, but he didn't direct this one. It's 1976. I
got no idea.
Okay. Sherlock Holmes Portrayal by Nicol Williamson, where he finds himself experiencing vivid hallucinations due to his concoction of 7% solution of cocaine and saline. So this was really cool because Dr. Watson is played by Robert Duvall, who sees Holmes spiraling down into this paranoia, all brought about by the use of the cocaine. I always thought it was an absinthe, but I guess I'm wrong. I guess it was cocaine because I kind of did a search and that's what they said.
I think it was.
Maybe it's that Robert Downey Jr. that's making me think because he did absinthe in that. But anyway, so in an effort to get his friend healthy again, they create, along with the help of, they create a fake mystery, and they go and meet up with Sigmund Freud, who is played by Alan Arkin.
Oh, interesting.
Hypnotizes him and helps him get out. And there's this whole scene where he's having withdrawals, and it's straight out of like Trainspotting, or Trainspotting must have watched this one because the camera's going all over. He's screaming. He's, all of this stuff. But finally he's able to get some semblance of normalcy again. And Vanessa Redgrave, playing Lola Devereaux, has been kidnapped. And so the three of them are on the search to find her. So it's a really great movie. I recently picked it up on Shout TV Blu-ray version of it, and it was as good. I've had the novel forever because of the Nicholas Myers connection, who did Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 6, I think. But he wrote it again early in the 70s, and they brought him on to be the screenplay, to adapt it into a screenplay as well. But anyway, my number 4 is the 7% solution that you can watch on YouTube. But I suggest going out and getting the Blu-ray because there's 2 different commentaries, there's behind the scenes, there's a couple of different people coming on giving different interviews and breakdowns of it. There's some Nicholas Meyer interviews. So anyway, it's out there. If you get it, find it. So,
and what I find so interesting is I feel like because probably the 70s is the time period that I don't have a lot of Sherlock on my list. And it's like I feel like we're you're one half of the Sherlock world, and so we're bringing both halves of the Sherlock world together. And
that's what I love about this show. I do, is because it's about favorites, and there's reasons. For me, the reason that this is on the list is because it was the Nicholas Myers novel, and having read it and everything, I don't think I ever watched the movie until probably maybe early 2000s. And then, like I said, when we started to do this, that was one of the 2 films that I bought, so that I could.
And for a movie to still entertain you, that's that old, because I've always thought that the age you are when you first see a movie, like I think those teens to mid 20s, like those are the movies that stay with you for life. They could be the worst movies in the world, but if you see them and that growth period in your life, and you're blossoming into adulthood, those are the ones that are your favorite movies. Kingdom
of the Spiders.
Greasy Grease 2 for me.
Oh, you're a cool rider.
I cried on the way home because I wanted to meet Maxwell Caulfield so bad. Fast forward 40 years from now, I met him about 5 years ago, and I was shaking. I was so nervous. It was amazing.
Did you grab a seat just a little bit? Like,
No, I did not.
I think we just end it there because I don't know how you're going to top that story that we just cut out. All right. So instead, why don't you give me your number 3 favorite Holmes portrayal?
Okay. This one's going to be a toughie because there is a lot of information about this particular actor.
Okay.
He is of yummy confectioner royalty. His mother's maiden name is Cadbury. I thought that was an interesting fact.
I know who it is already.
He was born with a speech impediment.
Willy Wonka.
Which I did not know. Yes.
I didn't know he played Sherlock Holmes, but yeah.
He is probably known to be the actor whose personal life and fictional life are the closest to each other. Like, he's the one that probably is the closest in personality to the character of Sherlock Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
And let me say that even though I do love, it's a TV series. And even though I do love him in the TV series, it's new to me. The first thing I ever saw this person in was a little tiny movie called My Fair Lady.
Okay.
And this would be the one and only, the one I podcast about quarterly, Mr. Jeremy Brett in the Granada TV series.
Did I tell you I live on Granada Drive?
Oh my gosh. No, you did not. That's pretty cool.
Yep. Now, I have seen some of these. I want to say they played on LPB when I was, gosh, I want to say it was after what years did these come out?
This was 84 to 94.
Okay, that's what I was saying. I thought I was still in high school, but it maybe been afterwards. But I did really like. So his mother was of Cadbury descent.
Yeah, his mother's maiden name was Cadbury.
That's
like a current. I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's all kinds of, like, he was dyslexic when he was a child. I mean, like, and what I did not know. One of the more pretty cool thing to note that he was considered for Sean Connery's replacement as the new James Bond.
Instead of Lazenby.
Correct. Instead of George Lazenby, but he thought it would ruin his career.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, because look how horrible it turned out for, Roger Moore and Sean Connery and Daniel Craig. Oh.
He's also one of the only actors to play both Watson and Holmes.
Oh,
I think Christopher Lee has done both as well.
Okay, yeah, I do know that Christopher Lee was Watson. I mean, was Holmes.
Yes.
And
to be honest, I was not a fan. I didn't put him on my list at all. That was one I watched. I wasn't.
It's not on my list either. There is just something about Count Dracula that comes across. And I know it's not, but I just can't wrap my head around it. So,
but as far as Jeremy Brett's performance, to be honest, until I started working on this podcast show, I didn't know anything about the series.
Really?
If I had seen it as, because that was high school, college age years for me. If I had seen it, I don't remember anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about the show is, like I said earlier, I never read the stories when I was growing up. So in the last 10 years or so, I'm like, I really want to read the Sherlock Holmes stories. Well, this show has helped me do that because I love the fact that each episode is literally taken from each story.
Right.
Like, there's no, and apparently he was very attentive to differences when he would get scripts, any differences with the script versus the short stories.
Oh, okay.
Like he had not take issue, but he was just very attentive to that to make sure that the stories, and they are very close. There's only been like a couple of things here and there when I've read the stories and watched the episodes that we podcast about, that are very, very few differences in those. But I love the relationship with him and his Watson.
Okay.
I don't love his mannerisms. It's a little too flamboyant for me, but from my understanding, that is how he saw Sherlock Holmes. Like, he supposedly is the closest to the written version of Sherlock Holmes.
Okay. Well, interesting. Well, like I said, I think I've seen a few, but I really don't remember them. So I would definitely have to go back and watch them again.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying. I'm glad that I've started doing this podcast because I'm really enjoying watching these shows for the first time.
Yeah. Well, I guess my number 3 should be pretty important then to try to beat that.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, I'm bringing it pretty hard. I'm also bringing a TV series. So right away, that knocks it down.
Okay.
And then this is going to be easy. You're going to get this one. Okay. Because both Holmes and Watson are also in the MCU.
Oh, I know who it is. I know who it is.
Here's your happy dance. We'll lay it out there, girl.
That is Mr. Benedict Cumberbatch and Mr. Martin Freeman as Sherlock and Watson.
That's it. 2010 to 2017. 3 seasons plus a couple of, was there a movie or?
I think there was one movie. Yes. I just purchased them because I realized that Netflix does not have them on anymore. So I bought the DVDs.
You can also get it, pay for it on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I think you can get it on that BritBox, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you are correct.
Yeah. But I love this one. And I'll tell you, it's because of the very first episode, the very first time that he has a complex problem facing him. You can actually, it goes up in the air around him and you can see his connections where he's doing all those things. And I know some people think that that's such a kitsch thing to do, but I really thought it was interesting. And
me too.
And Freeman's approach to his Holmes, I thought was much stronger. In the character was a stronger, more self-sufficient man, because we talk about like Nigel, who phenomenal. I mean, he is the number one. But as far as being a doctor, you never hardly really knew much of or saw much of him being a doctor.
Right.
Or Freeman, you do, and he has. I think he brings more to the table as a Watson does than so many other ones have done. But anyway, and I
will say it is on my list. We just haven't got there yet.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to go on anymore. We know that it's my number 3. I'm guessing it's going to be your number 2 or 1. So we're going to find that out. Well, you know what? Let's go to your number 2 and roll the dice and see if it's there.
Okay. It is not my number 2.
Oh, then I say, therefore, deduce that it will be your number 1.
You might be accurate.
Elementary.
I noticed when I was doing research on all these actors individually that several of them come from acting lineage, I would say. This next actor is, both of his parents are actors, theater actors. This actor initially turned down this role because he thought it would be too similar to the BBC's Sherlock. This actor has several nominations, awards, including a satellite nomination for this particular another TV series. And this is the most interesting but it has nothing to do with Sherlock Holmes. The most interesting thing, and it kind of relates to Mr. Jeremy Brett. I had no idea because I've loved this actor for a very long time. But his grandfather is named Bernard. And his grandfather was M in the first 11 James Bond films.
Oh, crap. I know what this is. My brain is a mass of facts that I cannot extract this from. Give it out to me.
It is Mr. Johnny Lee Miller from Elementary.
Elementary. There you go.
I've loved him since Hackers. Should I added he was married to Angelina Jolie? Like it was Angelina Jolie's first husband. But anyway, they were only married for like a year.
With the indomitable Lucy Liu.
Yes. Yes. Who, I'm sure a lot of people probably had thoughts about, them bringing in a female Watson. I think she did an incredible job. And like you were saying about Martin Freeman, we saw her be a doctor. She used the medical knowledge that she has to help with the cases. Right. But I like the take on it. We're in America, we're not in London. Mm-hmm. And I like the show itself, and I like Johnny's portrayal. It seems like it's a much darker Holmes. They focus a lot on his sobriety and his addictions.
Yes, because she's the sober,
right? Sober whatever. Companion.
Yeah,
yeah. I rewatched a few of the first episodes, and they also do. His Moriarty is also a female as well, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've seen the show, but yes, his Moriarty is played by. She was in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
What is her name?
You ready
can't think of her name.
Natalie Dormer.
Yes, that was his Moriarty.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Scout.
Yes.
She loves her some Natalie Dormer.
Oh, me too. She's gorgeous.
She wasn't in a lot of episodes though, right?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
I just remember her being, and I thought she did a great job as a villain in that.
Yeah. So it wasn't one of those where she's like behind the scenes and all of this stuff on some other shows.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I think there's probably still some threads of it, but I don't think they make it as big of a deal as it, like she's controlling everything like they do in other series. Okay. Yeah. But I thought it was a great series. I love his portrayal. I think he's kind of perfect because he doesn't overdo the quirkiness or the, he's a jerk, but he's still not an asshole or an a-hole or,
Yeah, I'll move that out. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah. So I think he did an incredible job, and Johnny Lee Miller is my number 2.
All right. Well, I think that's really good because I did watch it, and I did a little search right here real quick to confirm that it was Natalie Dormer, and she's only in 6 episodes.
Okay.
And only her voice is in 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So maybe it looks like she's only in really 4 episodes. All right. Well, then, the game is afoot. I will give you my number 2, that we have already discussed it.
Yes.
It is actually Without a Clue from 1988. Again, I was 18-year-old when this came out, but I've never seen it. It wasn't until not too long ago that I have a very close friend whose father is he's a what we call nowadays a big physical media guy, but what he calls just his tapes. And so I had to borrow my VCR went out, and I needed to convert something, and I borrowed one from him. And when I brought them back, he took me into his room, and he had all of these VHS and DVDs of Sherlock. He had them all in one because he's a woodworker too. He had built them in a little cabinet, and they were all together.
Don't ever let Jared into this guy's house.
What? But I saw that Without a Clue, and it just struck a chord as I'm going, hey, I remember that. And so I brought it home and hooked it up and watched it, and I loved it.
I had never seen it until I watched it last weekend.
Yeah, it is not in any. It's not a parody. It is, I think it's described as a farcical take on the Holmes stories.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the idea because Kingsley is the intelligent. He is the true detective behind it all, but he's a jerk.
Right.
And, and here comes Michael Caine, drunk as Reginald Kincaid. And Watson has been writing the stories of the of the cases, but everyone wants to see Holmes.
Right.
And so he has to hire him to be on there. And he's an idiot. I mean, he's a drunk. But as the story goes along, of course, Moriarty, played by Paul Freeman, who does a great job, comes out. And I mean, the end is amazing. Not only is there one twist with Lucy, whatever her name was, the kidnapped woman.
Oh, yes.
Two twists, which I was like, wow. Which I had to go back and watch it on YouTube just to make sure I was like, I didn't see that, right? But it's a fun flick. And I tell you, if you can take off your serious hat and watch this, and maybe the way that they do it, in that the characters themselves are not doofuses, is why I'm okay with it versus going and seeing Holmes and Watson.
Right.
So, but anyway, I definitely would tell you that my penultimate choice would be Without a Clue from 1988.
Okay.
So I think that means that when we've eliminated all of the other, which is impossible, that whatever remains, however improbable, must be your number one.
Absolutely.
And I know what it is.
And that would be?
I'm going to go ahead and say it. No, I'm going to say it because I know what it is.
Okay.
It is the 2014 Japanese puppetry show, Sherlock Holmes, starring the voices of Koichi Yamarada, Wataru Kakaga, and Kiyoko Horiguchi. No,
it's Sherlock Gnomes, which actually is quite a cute film if you haven't seen it.
God, I was sure it was going to be the Japanese puppet.
No. I did enjoy the Japanese Mrs. Sherlock, by the way. I watched that this past weekend, and it was quite good.
You were saying that. Where did you watch it?
All female cast. It's on HBO Max.
HBO Max. Okay.
Yes, because
I get your password later.
I think it was done by HBO Asia. Is who created the show. I'm kind of sad they just had one season, but anyway.
Yeah.
So yes, my number one, which I found out, is true royalty himself. He is a distant relative of King Richard III.
The third?
Yes.
Patrick Stewart himself?
That's good. I love Patrick Stewart. His parents were both actors, like Johnny Lee Miller's. Actually, Benedict Cumberbatch's parents are in the TV show Sherlock. They play his parents in the series.
That is too cool. I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. And I thought this was odd enough that these were my top two picks for Sherlock Holmes. They both won, and I hate now that I never took a chance and decided to go see this. They were both Benedict Cumberbatch and Johnny Lee Miller. You may or may not remember this. I don't remember what year it was. They were both in the stage play done by Danny Boyle of Trainspotting fame, of Frankenstein. And I don't know if it was nightly or weekly. They alternated roles. One played the creature and one played the doctor.
I saw that picture. That was 2011, I think.
Okay. And they both won the Olivier Award, Sir Laurence Olivier Award for Best Actor in that stage play.
Wow. That's awesome.
And then him and Martin Freeman being together in the Hobbit movies. It's just, it's just
the happy love fest.
Yes, it is. I want to be in a cuddle puddle with all of them.
So it is animated, right? Or do they actually dress up as gnomes? Which I think I would much rather see. You know,
I would adore Benedict Cumberbatch dressed as a gnome.
just don't ask him to say penguin.
I know. And ever since I saw them on Graham Norton talking about how he looks like an otter, I can't unsee it.
I know.
I can't unsee it.
That's such a good sense of humor.
But this, I think the show is amazing. And like we were talking earlier, I think Benedict Cumberbatch does an amazing job. He rides that line of being manic, but being
Gnomish,
calm, and what was your word?
Gnomish.
Gnomish. But I truly think the heart of that series is Martin Freeman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I do this thing on my show called Watson Watch.
Oh,
I'm very big on sidekicks. Like, you know, when I watch a Disney movie, it's always like Sebastian or Donkey. It's always, you know, kind of the sidekick that.
I'm sorry. Donkey's a star. No,
He really is.
I have to correct you.
Mushu,
Come on, I'm
know.
making waffles. Sorry, please.
But so in all these series, you know, Watson is kind of a big draw for me, but especially in the Sherlock series, I think Martin Freeman just some of his emotional scenes I originally watched it 10 or so years ago, and I just recently, like last weekend, I rewatched the entire series and I cried like it was the first time I had seen some of those episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you need a moment?
I do. I need a moment. Like
your eyes just kind of missed it over a little bit.
I would go rewatch it again right now. If no one's seen this portrayal of Sherlock and Watson, you're missing out. It's so good.
Yeah. Well, before you do that, why don't I give you my number one?
Yes,
and then
please.
you and Cumberbatch can go and
Yes,
talk about
I'm extremely curious what your number one is.
Well, we have already discussed my number one.
Okay.
And I have been biting my tongue since the very beginning of this episode. I am talking about the 1939 version, one of 8 film versions of The Hound of the Baskerville.
Yes.
Starring our faves, or one of our faves,
Right.
Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. And again, you're right. It is interesting because in these movies, he's not the number one character. He's the star, and they have some incredible actors in this movie as well. Not only do they have Nigel Bruce, they have Richard Green, they have Lionel Atwell, John Carradine is in it as well. You know,
and that is the grandfather of the Carradine family, because I googled it.
It's been named as so Holmes and Watson are the AFI 100 Heroes and Villains, nominated heroes. The movie is from 100 Thrills of AFI, and it's AFI top 10 nominated mystery films. So, I mean, this movie, I think if you're going to watch one of them, that's the one that you should watch. It's got, first of all, it's black and white, so you got to get over that. Okay. But it's spooky. It's you don't quite know what's going on here. Is it a real monster? Is it a hound? Is it somebody messing around? Whatever. It's just a wonderful, wonderful version, and you can watch it for free on YouTube. And like you said earlier, it's the very first of the 14 films that they did together in the Sherlock version, from 39 to 46.
And I'm not that old. I'm sure it was. I had read somewhere. I think it used to be on like CBS, maybe a lot, like maybe weekend special kind of thing, and that's probably why I remember seeing that quite a few times when I was a kid. Kind of like, you know, that's how I got into James Bond. I've seen Live and Let Die and For Your Eyes Only so many times on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Back
You
in
gotta
the day.
gotta stop and watch it whenever it's on.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, girl, you have brought an incredible list and an incredible amount of just clues and tips and just trivia that I am astounding. I applaud you.
Oh, well, thank you, sir. I do pride myself on my investigative skills.
Mm-hmm. And your loungewear that you're wearing is just perfect. Your Mark Broussard. I can't wait to tell, because he and I, we have breakfast all the time, so.
Well, tell him I said, hey.
I will. I'm sure he'll know.
And actually, and I did wear this shirt just for Jamie's benefit because Mark Broussard is a Louisiana artist that I have followed. Every time he comes here to Birmingham, I like to go see him.
Just down the road.
But I do have a YouTube channel, which mostly I just post my music or like concert videos and stuff on that I've
And what's it called?
It's just AU Kathy 2418.
Okay.
But my video with the highest views is a Mark Broussard live performance. I can't remember which song it is, but it's a live performance of Mark Broussard. Is my highest viewed video on YouTube.
Wow, look at you.
I know, it's got like 4,000 views. I was quite excited.
You should be. That's awesome. I would have to watch that show over and over again to get that many. But anyway, that's something completely different. Wow. So this has been amazing, girl. So we have to decide right now which of the 16 topics that you chose should we do next? Who you want to do next?
I'm kind of really, because we just, the most recent we talked about was Bill Paxton.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the one that's like really on my mind right now.
Okay. So we will do Bill Paxton next.
Okay.
All right. I'll get to work on it. Now we're going to do his portrayals, not just his movies, because he was in some little bits in some movies too. So
yes, because one of his from the 80s is going to be on my list. And he actually one of the there's a TV show that I watched that he was into. So
okay. All right. Well, awesome. Well, we will do it. Well, again, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this and to come on and all the technical stuff that no one knows about until I just mentioned it. So I better shut up.
We got it figured out. It was on my end, people. It was on my end.
And I'd also like to thank all of you out there in the podcast universe for joining us for this episode of Fave 5 from Fans. You can find us and more from the Plastic Microphone Studios wherever you catch a podcast. It'd be a massive help if you could consider leaving us a review and that all-important 5-star rating. We live for the 5-star ratings. If you like the show, please consider telling a friend. And if you don't like the show and there's someone in your life who is your Moriarty, tell them about it. Maybe it will ruin them. Maybe it will force them into exile and we'll never have to deal with them again. And don't forget to look for our other show, Complete Disarray with Jamie Ray, where we take one topic and just ramble on and on and on and on and on about it.
That sounds like a show I need to be on.
Yeah, but I mean, in a good way, though. Totally in a good way. Just another product of the Plastic Microphone Studios that no one asked for. And remember, folks, it may not be the best. It may not be the most popular. But if it's your favorite, then it's good enough for us. Thanks for joining us. Kathy B., take us out.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I had an amazing time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Bye.